Your Omaha High with Andy Greenberg is being sponsored by On-Q Marketing, Best Buy Benches, OmahaFastFoods.com, Certified Transmission, Omaha Magazine, Monahan Financial, Shold-It, NP Dodge Real Estate, Valpak, Kohl's Pharmacy, Centrus Federal Credit Union, Ideal Water. Welcome to Your Omaha High with Andy Greenberg, the show that will leave you feeling great about yourself, Omaha's heroes, and Omaha, where we live, work, and play. So park yourself on the bench and have fun. Your Omaha High with Andy Greenberg, and we have got a terrific show for you this week. Let me tell you why. Number one, we're going to start off with 4 powerful motivational vignettes, different ideas that you have never heard of before, that you've never seen before, and that you have never read before, that quite frankly, you can use immediately to help improve both your personal life and professional life. We're also going to be talking about a wonderful nonprofit organization right here in Omaha, Nebraska, who is helping out children. You're really going to want to stay tuned to hear that. But I got to tell you, most important of all is my very, very special guest. You're going to meet an individual who is, well, I'm not going to tell you her age, but her accomplishments are going to be absolutely amazing. I'd like to introduce you to Elaine Jabenis. Elaine, welcome very much to the show. I look so much forward to talking to you in a few minutes and letting everybody hear your inspirational story and how they can learn from what you have done.
Thank you.
Hi, I want to talk to you about your favorite subject, something that is absolutely always connected to the city of Omaha. Care to guess what it is? It is Omaha road construction. Yeah, I know, I just put a big smile on your face because I know exactly what happens when we see that sign. You know, during the daytime, we drive to work and of course we drive home from work and everything is fine. Yeah, there's traffic once in a while, but we expect that. But then once in a while, there it is, that sign that you never, ever wanted to see right in front of you. You know what that sign is? Road construction, next 6 months. Now you say to yourself, why me? Give me a break. Everything's fine. I don't have any problems when I go to work. I don't have any problems when I come home from work. This road doesn't need repair. Leave me alone. Now you can scream and yell and protest as much as you want. They're still going to continue with that road construction. And you know what's going to happen? They're going to put up those cones, and then all of a sudden the time spent either going to work or coming home is going to be lengthened, and you're going to get upset. Because all of a sudden they've robbed you of 10 or 15 minutes of your daily travels. And then as they get more and more into the construction, I know you're like me, and you're probably saying to yourself in your car, screaming out loud, if I was in charge of this project, it'd be done by now. But you know what? Still, nobody listens. But here's the point. 6 months to the day, hopefully, when the road construction is done, the road is wider, you're driving safer, you're driving faster. On that day, how many of us really think about the 6 months worth of turmoil that we went through? The number of people that it is 0. We are actually happy with the change. You see, in life, we are actually happy with change. It's the process of change that bothers us. It's the turmoil of change that bothers us. It's the fact that we didn't create the change that bothers us. But once that change occurs and the process is over, we forget about the process that we went through and we enjoy the outcome and results. So you basically have 2 choices. You can wait for somebody to put a sign up in front of you, road construction next 6 months, which means something in your life is going to change, or even better, you can make up your own sign that says, over the next 6 months, I'm under construction. I'm going to change. I know the process is tedious, but I know the outcome is good for me. So our choice today is to create our own road construction. Now, talking about construction, I want to talk about Las Vegas for a minute. Do you remember way back when Las Vegas was first developed? They basically had 3 hotels, the Riviera, the Stardust, and the Frontier. Now, if you go to Las Vegas today, you'll be hard set to find those hotels. I think one is still in existence, but the original hotels, they're gone. They've already served their purpose. They brought people in, but then all of a sudden they became obsoleted. New, better casinos, new, better hotels opened up, and everybody quickly forgot about the people that founded Las Vegas and the hotels that did it. This is very important. It's very important about your life, because here's a question I want you to ask yourself. Right now, today, am I the old, archaic, non-existent Las Vegas hotels, or am I new? Am I modern? Are people flocking to me? And if they're not, what do I have to do? The answer is very simple. Number one, we got to go back to the road construction example we gave earlier, and we have to say to ourselves, I know I'm outdated. I know I'm obsoleting myself. Before I really go away into the dust, I need to change. I want to be known as the individual that is building something new. I want to be known as the individual that is building something absolutely luxurious. I want to be able to attract people. I no longer want to be obsolete. You are the architect. You're the architect of your life. You are the one that makes that decision. And I think that today you should not take a gamble on being obsoleted. I think today you should not take a risk of being obsoleted. Today is the day that you say to yourself, I am going to be someone new. Now, many times at work, and I'm going to show you how this happens, somebody comes over to you and says, you know what, I'm leaving for a couple of days, and they put you in charge. And here's what they always say, Joe, Mary, the only thing I want you to do is hold down the fort. And what do? You hold down the fort. Now, what does that mean? That means that you maintain the status quo, which says that's all that they expect from you. That is one of the expressions I really don't like. I don't like the expression, hold down the fort, because what I really want to do is I want to remodel that fort. I want to redesign that fort. I want that fort to become more fortified. I want that fort to become more valuable. And when the person returns who told me, hey, just hold down the fort, I'm going to show that individual that I am the one that can absolutely make that change. I am a builder, because this world doesn't need people who just maintain the status quo. This world needs people who grow it. This world needs people who bring other people together to build something absolutely beautiful. One of the things I want you to remember is in your life, never allow yourself to be complacent. Never allow yourself just to hold down the fort. In your life, you are a builder of the fort. In your life, you are the individual that will always say, I'm a builder, not a maintainer. And I'm going to give you an example on how that works. What I'd like everybody to do now is to take either their right hand or their left hand, whichever one that you feel more comfortable with. And here's what I want you to do. Take your right hand or left hand and raise it up. Just go ahead and raise it up. That's it. Fine. Second step. I want you to raise it by 1 inch. Now, you don't have to have a ruler, but just raise it by 1 inch. And the third step is I want you to raise it as high as you possibly can. Got it? Now, let me ask you a question. The very first time I told you to take your hand and raise it up, everybody probably followed me and did exactly what I did. And then I told you to raise it 1 inch, and you probably didn't even go over that inch. And then you raised it up as far as you possibly could the last time. Here's my question. The very first time I told you to take your hand and raise it up, why didn't you raise it up as high as you possibly could? The answer is, this is your comfort zone. When I told you to raise it 1 inch, you listened to me. And that should be the last time you ever listen to anybody, because I set a limit for you. I never said you can't go over that inch. You still have the right. You still have the opportunity to raise it up as far as you can. And when you went up this far, that is your potential. The difference between your comfort zone and your potential is known as the gap. What's the lesson here? 2, actually. Never, ever let anybody set a limit for you. If they tell you that you're only capable of raising 1 inch, you go higher. You always go to your maximum potential. You always give it everything that you possibly can the very first time. And by the way, once you're as high as this, then you get the opportunity to maybe stand up. And if you're standing up and you want to go higher, go in a chair, because you're the one that's always in control of your potential. And let's talk about one final thing. and that's traffic jams. We talked earlier about road construction. I'm going to change that for a moment, and let's assume that you're driving to work, and all of a sudden, actually, we're going to even change that. You're driving someplace pleasurable. You want to go someplace, ball game, picnic, theater, whatever, and there's a bunch of traffic in front of you, and you're stuck. What do? Do you go to the next exit and say, you know what, there's too many obstacles in front of me, I've become a victim. I don't want to continue this journey anymore. I'm going to go to the next exit, go home, go to bed, and roll up in a cocoon. The answer is you don't do that. But in life, yep, the minute you become a victim, the moment somebody places an obstacle in front of you, isn't that exactly what you do? You give up. You say to yourself, okay, I'm going home. This is not for me. I'm going to go into bed. I'm going to roll up in a cocoon, and I'm going to feel sorry for myself. Anytime that happens, don't let it happen. Say to yourself, I don't let that happen in traffic. I am not going to let this happen to me in life. So let's review. We talked about 4 different ways to always keep motivated. We talked about the potential. We talked about road construction. We talked about Las Vegas, and we talked about the fact that you should always keep going. Don't let yourself stop. Once again, you've got a choice, and your choice is, what am I going to do with these messages that we just learned about? What am I going to do with these lessons that became so important to me? The answer is, use them. Replay this. Understand how you can get these little ideas, these common sense ideas, to become part of your life, to become part of who you are, to become part of the tools that you will use to get everything out of life that you've always wanted. These are the motivational tools that leave you this week on the Omaha High with Andy Greenberg. Use them and enjoy them. I also want to talk to you about a marvelous organization that does some tremendous work, things you probably are not aware of. It is the Child Savings Institute right here in Omaha, Nebraska. They've been helping children for 120 years here in Omaha, Nebraska. And what do they help them with? The Child Saving Institute provides services and programs to make at-risk children safe and fractured families whole. The programs include early childhood education, foster care, pregnancy counseling, adoption, parenting classes, and therapy. It is a marvelous organization. Find out more about them by going to your website and just clicking in on the search bar, Child Saving Institute of Omaha, so that you can learn what this marvelous organization is doing for children at risk and bringing fractured families back together in the beautiful Omaha, Nebraska. Hi, and I'd like you to join me in welcoming a marvelous Nebraska icon, somebody who's done some remarkable things in their life. Please, I want you at home to have a big round of applause for none other than Elaine Jabenis. Elaine, welcome to your Omaha High with Andy Greenberg.
Oh, thank you.
I just want to start off by asking you a question, and I know we're on TV, and I know most women will never admit to this, but I've got to ask you, how old are you?
I'm 93.
93 years old, looking as fantastic as you do. That is magnificent. And what year were you born?
1920.
1920. Omaha must have been totally different in 1920 than it is today.
Oh, very different.
Yeah. And you know what's interesting?
What?
You are part of the history of Omaha, Nebraska.
Oh, okay.
That's why you're known as a Nebraska icon. So I want to go back a little bit into time, and I want you to tell us a little bit about how you got your first job at the New York Times.
Oh, it was just raining in Manhattan, and I just walked into the building to get out of the rain and looked up on the schedule on the wall, and it says that the personnel department of New York Times is on the 11th floor, and I saw this rain was never going to stop. Right. So I took the elevator and went up there and made out an application. I was, you know, I'm very creative.
Sure, sure.
Very. I think that application was probably the best piece of fiction I've ever written.
No, I mean, I hear stories today about people, and when their resumes are written and their applications, that they embellish. Are you trying to suggest that you embellished your application to the New York Times and they accepted it?
Big time.
So you walk in there, and all of a sudden you get a job that day. That day. And who did you end up working for?
Well, I ended up working for the publisher's wife. the owner of the New York Times, Imogene Sulzberger. And she was a darling, and I went into her office that day, and I met her assistant.
Right.
And her assistant gave me a wonderful assignment that first day. I made coffee and went around and got pastry and bagels and whatever for all the reporters in the office. And but from then on, they really did a very generous job of educating me. And I learned so much during those 3 weeks.
3 weeks.
That's all I had.
Wow.
I was just substituting for somebody, you understand, for 3 weeks. And the last day, I had nothing to do, so I went into a supply closet they had.
Right.
It was such a mess. Newspaper men are very messy.
Sure.
And I
think other men too, but.
And then I decided just to straighten it up and, put files where they belong and paper where it belonged and whatever, and all the other equipment. And I put little signs in front of all of these piles.
You labeled them, yeah.
I labeled them, right, so they could find everything. And when I came out, I found Mrs. Sulzberger was talking to her assistant, and she turned to me and she said, "You've been talking about you, Elaine, and I want to know what you're going to do now.
Right.
Because today is your last day.
Last day, right.
And I said, look for a job. So she said, well, a young woman who is as resourceful as you have been in doing something you were not required to do should belong in this company. So she called Mr. Tootle, who was the personnel director, and said, can't we find a place for this young lady, which means do it.
Do it, sure,
So I did, and she put me in the city room, the newsroom, which is someplace that at that time, women were really not too welcome.
So you broke the barrier. So I want to review for a moment. You walk into the place, no job. You walk out the same day with a job. You're there for 3 weeks. They then elevate you to a nice high position, and you break the barrier that women previously were not allowed in, interestingly enough, with the publisher being a woman herself. That's absolutely amazing.
I thought it was too. And I worked for the education editor, for the financial editor, for the drama critic, for the fashion editor, and the drama critic then was Brooks Atkinson, the legendary critic of the Broadway era.
Interesting. We're going to get to the drama part in a moment, but even as a further summary, you were in fashion, so you literally pull the wool over the eyes of the people when they read your application because you fabricated it, but were able to get a magnificent position and really went for it.
I really told them the truth, actually.
Okay.
I did later.
Later, of course.
They knew.
That something was wrong.
They were too smart.
I just love your gumption of doing that. So let's talk about drama. So there is a picture of you with Johnny Carson. And Johnny Carson and you got together. And tell me a little bit about what happened with Johnny Carson and you, and how'd you get together?
Well, I was working when I moved back to Omaha, Nebraska, I left after 3 years with the New York Times. My husband didn't like New York, so we came back to Omaha. Right. And I got a job at Radio WOW. And then Johnny Carson and I worked together for 2.5 years. Right. In both radio and television. Wow. And I learned so much from that man. He was such an inspiration. He became such a good friend. Wow. In later years, when I got into the fashion business, I was in New York every month for all year long. Wow. Then he had his New York, the Tonight Show, came out of New York at that time. I would always come to the show, and we would get together afterwards and have a sandwich and talk, and it was wonderful. That's magnificent. But it doesn't stop there, because I understand there was another major influence in your life, and that was Rex Harrison. That is right. When I was with the New York Times, I had lunch with Rex Harrison. He had come to the United States as brilliant British actor. Right. And this was an interview that we had with him. And during that interview, he kept looking over at me and saying, "I love your voice." Wow. And I didn't think somebody from Omaha, Nebraska, a Rex Harrison type saying, "I love your voice." Yeah. But he continually commented on it. Then he finally said, you really must do something with that. Right. You should get into radio or television or theater or something, but use that voice. Yeah. And I said, well, thank you very much. So what do you think I did? When I got back to Omaha, the first thing I did is I walked into the leading radio station and I got a job.
I would have expected that, sure. Because you have a history of doing that. You have a history of getting what you want. You have a history of breaking through barriers. You have a history of saying, this is what I want, this is how I'm going to get it. And that is exceptionally inspirational.
Well, I really didn't know that I wanted it until it was sort of put into my psyche, and I just began to think, maybe that's a sign.
Absolutely.
I should do it.
And you know what most people do with signs? They ignore them.
Oh, no,
They
never ignore signs.
And that would be a great advice.
No,
but
no.
Here's something else. Who is this?
That's me.
Tell us a little bit about this.
Well, when I was in television, I did a lot of commercials, and then I had my own show.
Right.
And that was the publicity picture they used to put in windows and things.
What was the name of your TV show here?
Where?
Here in Omaha? You had your TV show and radio show in Omaha?
Yes. It was called the Elaine Jabenis Show.
Oh, wow.
And then another one was called Saturday Scrapbook, because that one happened to be on Saturday. And
excellent. And you also wrote and performed commercials. You were a voiceover artist here in Omaha for commercials that you wrote.
Yes, I did a lot of that. I did a great deal.
And how'd you get started in that? You wrote a commercial and then someone...
I wrote a commercial and then I got started in because I taped it for a client.
Right.
Just so he could hear what it
How
would sound like.
Right.
And then when he decided he loved the prospect that I had submitted,
sure.
He signed the contract, and they said they would get him a really good announcer. He said, no. I want that voice that I heard on the tape.
That's
and that's what really got me into
Outstanding. So then after that, you decided, you know what? It's about time I came out from the radio because I have a face for theater. So you went to the Omaha Community Playhouse, and you auditioned for a part?
I auditioned for a part. I lived across the street from the Playhouse at that time.
Right.
So I went over there one evening when they were having auditions, and it was Father of the Bride. And I have, at this point, Andy, never been on a stage in my life. I just had worked for a great drama critic who taught me a great deal.
Sure.
And I evidently had absorbed some of that stuff.
Right.
And you know what? I got the part. I was surprised.
I'm not surprised. I don't think anybody's surprised.
Well, then I really had a wonderful tour of duty in theater.
Now, not only that, you've won some awards at the Omaha Community Playhouse.
I won every award that they offered, and some of them twice. And I won the Henry Fonda Dorothy McGuire Award twice.
Outstanding.
I met Henry Fonda, and it was quite a thrill.
And of course, there's an award named after you now.
Yes, there
that
is.
Other aspiring actors and actresses can go after each and every year, and the award is called?
It's called the Elaine Jabenis Award.
And I'll tell you something interesting. Elaine Jabenis has done it all, but you think she stopped? Absolutely not, because at age 93, as far as I'm concerned, this is her greatest accomplishment that everybody could learn from. Elaine has written 2 nonfiction books, but then she said, you know what, I'm 93. I'm not just going to sit around, I'm going to write another book. And she wrote her very first fiction book, which is called George's Secret.
Right.
Tell us a little bit something about this book.
Oh, that's something I've always wanted to do. I wanted to write fiction. And this is the story about a beautiful, privileged young woman who decides to keep a secret about her background because she felt without it she would find life unbearable.
Wow.
Only by so doing, she opens herself up to a lot of grief.
Okay. And it's a book a lot of people can relate to because we all have secrets.
Yes.
And we're all afraid if an individual finds out about our secrets, what will happen to us and what are the outcomes. So go ahead.
Well, it also has a lot of issues in the book that I've always wanted to address. And I put them on the stage. Every scene that I wrote, I would try to envision how it would be to play it out.
Yes. And you actually released this book in Omaha, Nebraska, I believe about 2 months ago.
I did.
And it sold a lot. But here's what I find really interesting. You just got a phone call recently from a book club in Austin, Texas, who is going to be discussing your book, and they want to have you on Skype to talk about it.
That is right. Isn't that wonderful?
That's remarkable.
I was so excited.
That's remarkable at age 93. Now, are you going to stop writing, or what are you going to do?
No, I'm already starting my second novel.
Already your second one?
Yes.
You know what?
But I've got to tell you, though.
Okay.
I really need to really hurry.
No.
I am losing my sight.
Oh.
And it is, I know that one of these days the lights will go out.
Sure.
But I'm not letting it stop me. I didn't stop when I was writing that book, and I'm not going to stop with this one.
Right.
And I am loving every minute I'm alive.
I bet you are, and you should, and we all benefit from it. Because I've got to tell you something. One of the reasons I have Elaine Jabenis on our show, your Omaha High with Andy Greenberg, is for you to learn from. Because let's recap. Here is an Omahanian, if I can use that name, who goes into New York Times and gets a job. Then she meets all the editors. Then she goes into the fashion industry. Then she says, I want to go into radio and television. Then she goes into theater, non-stop. But the real inspirational point is at age 93, she writes a book, her third one, and she's about to start, actually she is, writing another one. So my question to you, the viewer, is, what are you going to learn from this? What are you going to do with your life? How is Elaine Jabenis going to inspire you? Because Elaine, I need to tell you something. I'm not quite your age yet, but here's what I do want to tell you. When I grow up, I want to be like you.
Oh,
I want to thank you so much for being part of our show, and I want to let each and every viewer know that this episode with Elaine Jabenis was put on air intentionally to get you involved in her life so that you can duplicate it with your goals, your ideas, your ideals, and never, ever stop. When you see a sign, don't walk away from it. When you see a sign, say to yourself, this is meant for me. This is meant for me to grow professionally. This is meant for me to grow personally. This episode of your Omaha High contained 4 motivational vignettes. It talked about a wonderful PSA organization, and it also showed you an opportunity on how to live a very full life by experiencing the life of Elaine Jabenis. At the end of this show, I want you to remember to return next week, because I have 2 Omaha valedictorians who are going to show you how to take your goals again and grow them and understand what the obstacles are and understand how to plan them and understand how to enjoy them. I'm Andy Greenberg, and I look forward to seeing you again next week. To contact me in the meantime, please go to my website, andygreenberg.wordpress.com, or email me at speakingofandygreenberg@cox.net. See you next week. Your Omaha High with Andy Greenberg was sponsored by On-Q Marketing, Best Buy Benches, OmahaFastFoods.com, Certified Transmission, Omaha Magazine, Monahan Financial, Sholdit, NP Dodge Real Estate, Valpak, Kohl's Pharmacy, Centrus Federal Credit Union, Ideal Water,